Hello and welcome to An Old Man Watches. Back once more to talk about generally bad films, and it is indeed a bad film today. It is Mesa of the Lost Women from 1953, in which the evil Dr. Aranya has discovered a way to splice humans and spiders together. And with this technology, he intends to do stuff. Evil stuff. So you may, from the way I phrase that, be guessing one of the problems that this movie has, but we'll get to that. Anyway, as you might imagine, some good guys stumble across the evil Dr. Aranya and his evil plans and, attempt to thwart them. So what does this movie have in it? What makes it good? What makes it bad? It's things that make it bad more so than things that make it good, or that are features that are there and are worth talking about. So the first thing that I'd like to discuss in terms of this movie is stunt casting. So this movie features Jackie Coogan as Dr. Aranya. Jackie Coogan was a former child star whose career had basically tanked. I'm pleased to say for him that he would later have a little bit of a resurgence because he went on to play Uncle Festus. So he got work again. But this is one of his sort of first adult kind of roles. And it's certainly not something that we have completely lost in the industry. We still see attempts by low-budget movies to get some kind of cachet by casting an at least recognisable name. The Asylum does this with their mockbusters, where they will cast somebody who used to be a name or is at least somewhat sort of familiar as a name in their terrible movies. So like Casper Van Diem is in a couple of their movies. So he had a brief kind of period of being a leading man, Starship Troopers, and Tarzan and the Lost City, that sort of thing. Lou Ferrigno is in one of the movies. So for people who remember the 1970s Incredible Hulk movies, and so on and so forth. So this is still something we see in the industry today. Efforts to kind of cast a former name. My favourite Asylum movie, one of the very few that I actually enjoy watching, Mega Python vs. Gatoroid, has both Tiffany and Debbie Gibson, 80s pop music starlets, plus one other cameo that I won't spoil because it's actually a really funny moment in the film. So this is not a thing that has gone away from the industry, but it's a thing that this movie does. He's a recognisable name, and they've cast him in this movie in an attempt to kind of generate some buzz for it. It was not successful as a tactic. So the second thing that this movie features is villain fail, and it features villain fail on multiple levels. So we'll spend a little bit of time on this one. So first of all, as you may have guessed from my vagueness around what Dr. Aranya's evil scheme might be, I have no idea. I've watched the movie. I don't know exactly what he was intending to do by splicing human and spider DNA together. The movie doesn't know what he was intending to do, but it's obviously evil and wicked and must be stopped. Because spiders are icky, I guess. He's clearly got some kind of evil scheme in mind, but the movie is extremely vague about what that might be. So that's villain fail number one. It's helpful if the motivations and purposes and intent of your villain is at least clear, even if it's crazy. Dr. Aranya is just sort of more crazy than anything else. There's no what is his plan? I don't know. The second thing is, if you're going to write a movie about an evil scientist experimenting on spiders, it's probably useful to have that evil scientist understand that spiders are arachnids and have 8 legs. Dr. Aranya refers to them as insects, which they are not, and as hexapods, meaning 6-footed or 6-legged. So, evil scientist genius who doesn't even know the correct classification of spiders. yeah, something of it. And obviously, this is because the author, like the screenwriter didn't know. But yeah, it's not a great look. And then finally, the third reason that there's villain fail here is that at the end of the day, basically, like, the three randos turn up and thwart his plan and defeat his entire army. It's kind of like, just what kind of evil villain are you if, like, three random people can just turn up and and beat you? I mean, it's not like the last Jedi turned up or something, or a really plucky pair of hobbits or something, like, at least something a little bit more than just like, three random people turn up and basically defeat his entire army. So yeah, villain fail on multiple fronts. Very, very hard to be engaged with a movie where the villain is kind of this inept. And the third thing that I wanted to talk about with this film is gender essentialism. And I'll preface this by saying that the movie is obviously close to 70 years old, and 1950s attitudes were very different, and the fact that it is dated should not be a surprise. And it does do one thing right, in that the leading man is actually compassionate and caring towards the leading lady. This is a surprisingly rare thing in 40s and 50s films, where leading men were often basically jerks, to one degree or another. You watch some of the screwball comedies like His Girl Friday, and yeah, the leading man is often not actually very nice to the leading woman, but she loves him. It's not terribly healthy, and I'm going to give the movie props here. The leading man in this seems like a decent fellow, particularly for a 1950s leading man. On the other hand, apparently when you splice spider DNA with a female human, what you get is a predatory femme fatale who can regrow her limbs. Whereas when you splice male human DNA with a spider, what you get is a short, hairy person. There's some, we've talked about the lack of scientific basis of this movie, and the lack of scientific credibility of this movie already, like in terms of getting just basics wrong. Obviously, this is also an example of that, but, there's also, some kind of unpleasant gender, men are beasts and women are temptresses kind of stuff going on here. That is, a bit uncomfortable 70 years later, to say the least. But, as I said, to give the movie its due credit, it shows a healthier relationship between its male and female lead than a lot of movies from this period do. And I'm including, big movies from this period, not just, low-end trash like this. So that's Mesa of the Lost Women. It has, sort of generated a surprising amount of, analysis out there if you Google it. But it's not a good movie. It doesn't make a lot of sense. The plot is barely there. The acting measures up to the plot a lot of the time. It's not a good movie. Speaking of not good movies, my next review is going to be 1995's Grimm, a British, I believe, horror movie. And we'll talk about why this movie is not successful in pretty much anything next time. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and catch you in the next one.